Today, I'd like to welcome you to my channel, and it's family past and present. And right now, we're learning how to save funds and bring the family together and spend quality time with family. Um, One of the things I was thinking of actually is, we're going to continue to cut cost and see if we can save more funds. The big thing is, I'm not sure what everybody has for cell phones these days, but if you can, it would be great to find out what everybody's cost is as far as using the phone and see if we can find out the difference in the companies. Okay, because some have, for X amount of gigabytes, it's, X amount of dollars. And what you want to do is kind of level that a bit and see if you can find something that has what you need for basic landline, really. But now that we're always on the go, that's why we're using cell phones. So we are going to try and balance that with something that we can actually pay less money for. So if you're paying a lot of money for a cell phone, for a lot of gigabytes, pictures, texts, try and see if you can get that down to a minimum. Okay, just kind of like a beginner would with a cell phone and doesn't want to pay $200 a month, which is, it seems to be to me that that's the average cost now. It's about 170 to 210 a month for a cell phone. That's a lot of money when you really think about it. A landline is much cheaper than that, to tell you the truth. So that's a difference of like $24 a month versus 200 a month. Big total. So see if you can get that down to a more reasonable price limit for your texting and whatnot, and see if you need a landline that you can actually spend time at home and talk to somebody on the phone like we did years ago, always. That can save you a lot of money. The other thing we can do is actually, if you remember that hydro power in these days is phenomenal, especially in the winter months or in the deep summer. You want air conditioning, you want fans. I understand that. A lot of places, go deep into the funds there because what you aren't using because it's summer takes away from the winter. So you're trying to make money, not throw it out the window per se. So I think we need to balance that budget somewhat. I know personally I've done a lot with that because when it's hot out, I want to put air conditioning on. But in the evening, when the sun goes down, it does get cooler, and we open the windows and allow breezes to come through and put our fans on. And it works much better, costs a whole lot less than the air conditioner for sure. And if you do have a fan over ice in a large bowl, for example, that is freezing air that you're getting. Okay. Yes, it's a lot of ice, but it sure is cheaper than paying the electric. So keep that in mind. Actually, we try not to cook as well in the daytime. We prep at night. And I say we because it's a lot of my friends and I that, kind of do these type of things. And I find personally that it's much more worthy to kind of prep your food ahead of time. Unfortunately, the children can't help you, the family can't help you if you're the one doing it in the evening, if they're off to bed. But it sure makes up the difference, when you're ready to sit down to a meal the next day. Try to prep things if you can and have things prepared in the evening, stick it in the fridge, and it's ready to go the next day. First, you're not wasting a lot of time in the daytime, and especially if you work, right? So you're going to be making sure that the meals are ready, prepped ahead of time. So, so we can try that. The other thing I wanted to mention is the eating out parts. I know a lot of people love to spend money, waste money on takeout. Okay, I just watched a couple of reels that have been released regarding the food industry out there. And like everybody else, when I was a lot younger, in the early 20s and 30 range, we loved to eat out. Okay, never thinking it was going to clog the vessels and give us the problems that we're getting now. Hindsight, but the food was better. So it wasn't as bad as today. Today, a lot of the meats that you're getting, chickens, poultries, anything like that, fish, it's not 100%. And apparently, grass fed does not mean they're always grass fed. It means that they were grass fed somewhere, for example, cows and horses and stuff are grain fed most of the time now, but they were grass fed sometimes. So the nutrients that you're actually getting from a lot of these animals now is not as good as what it used to be. So your big chain stores, of course, don't have that. They have a different quality of meat right off the top. But what you need is a smaller butcher or a smaller shop that buys from someone they know. And most places do have that. I think some of them might be kosher, I'm not sure, but if that is the fact, then, like, I mean, we have a place here down the street that we go to. The gentleman buys from a farmer local and he grinds it with his staff in the shop and they put it out. It's a tad bit more expensive, but not in the long run. If you think of what it costs you to go to a chain store, a takeout, and get your hamburgers with fries. So we're talking takeout for each person. You're talking almost $15 per person to eat somewhat a healthy meal. I mean, the cholesterol, things like that are in your fries and anything that's deep fried is not a bonus. It's going to clog your arteries and your vessels, and that's not good. Okay. And you don't notice those things until you're getting your triple bypass. Okay. Like those things, who cares? Like, I don't know if I'll be here tomorrow. That's not exactly the way you want to handle it. So now that I've learned along the way that, you know, it's expensive to eat out, and that's called a treat. And making things at home with good meat is much more beneficial. So, for the amount of beef you would normally get, I mean, a package, I'm trying to think, half pound? No, a quarter pound for us. Um, my husband and I, we can do with a $10 package that lasts 2 days for two meals. Okay. That's equivalent of like $5 a day. And that's a whole lot cheaper, really. And if he uses potatoes or I use vegetables or, we choose to have salads with it, either way, that hamburger is much cheaper than the store bought. Okay. You still put the same condiments on it if you want. You're going to use lettuce, onions, tomatoes. And another reminder here is in this season or whenever, try not to buy a lot of fresh fruit or vegetables if you're not going to use them straight up. I learned that the hard way this year that I was buying way too many vegetables and I couldn't eat all the vegetables I was buying. I love vegetables. And what was happening is that um, I finally figured out I could blanch half of this food and pre-prep it, put it in the freezer, and pull it out whenever I wanted. And I had still the fresh vegetables or the fruits. And it was a lot, again, a big savings. And, now that I do that, it's so much easier. So for the things that I used to buy um, a year ago, I don't do that anymore. I buy still the same regular, but it's going to do me weeks because it's all been prepped, pre-bagged, and put in the freezer. So every time I take a portion out for one meal, I go ahead and it's very easy to do. It's a matter of blanching and, for X amount of minutes, whatever the vegetables are, and voila, you, that's it. You're going to put them back in when you take them out from the freezer, let them thaw, and cook them on the stove or whatever you're going to do with them. Um, and that's it has been a really big saving for me for groceries. So when I look at, say, $150 for a week, I'm now down to $50. a week because of the savings I'm making up on the other end of saving and prepping ahead of time. The other thing that's nice to do is get your stuff prepped ahead of time. If you're making noodle soup, chicken soup, pastas, make enough that you can actually freeze them in little containers. And I do not suggest plastic, um, but if you do, fine. But remember when you bring them out of the freezer to kind of thaw the outer limit of it and then pop it into a bowl, a plate, or whatever you're going to use. And in that case, you're not heating up the plastic that's now leaching into your food. Again, scientists have just found out that most of our bodies carry like a 10% plastic through the intestines and the organs. So here now, I just end up throwing out my Tupperware, and I love my Tupperware, but I had to throw it out because I understand that plastic's leaching out of everything. As we now move to bottles that, like, that are back to glass and things like that. So I'm very cautious about what we're using here. And I don't mind prepping ahead of time because it's an evening pastime for me. I'll just take a day that I know I'm going to use all my vegetables. So it's usually the second day after grocery shopping. I'll decide this is the day to prep before anything goes bad. The only things you can't really prep, I find, is things like celery, um, peppers. You can also, like green pepper, red pepper, yellow pepper, you can still do those. Lettuce, no, it has to be an immediate thing. But for peas and carrots and things like that, yes, you can pre-blanch and freeze, and there's no wastage. If you do not want to do that, you can actually buy the canned products. I don't find in my recipes or healthy eating concert that I'm a little I have to be really, really hard pressed to do that because I'd rather fresh vegetables and stuff and then prep it that way because that way I know it's already going through one cooking phase or I'm using it for the basis of my uh, stews, and I will freeze those things so that they come out anytime. Seafood casserole, a lot of people um, don't make that now. They go out to get that. I make it here for people that come into the house if we're having company. And it is costly, but you also save what's left, you freeze it. Okay. And here I make enough that we can freeze about 6 meals worth after everybody else has been fed. So, um, although the cost of getting the first stuff is a lot, um, it's not really because you've fed everybody. It's a good meal. There are a few things that you put in it, and a lot of the prep there is what you put in for the sauce. Anybody who would like the recipe, please ask, and I'll definitely give it to you. And you can make it into whatever portions, how much you want to use. Okay, because I guess it's one of the best, but I don't eat seafood, sorry, but everybody else does. So anyway, we do that here as well. So hopefully these little hints are things that you can keep with you. The big thing about prepping ahead of time is that you always have a meal that, those days where nobody knows what they want and you've got to prepare meals, supper, whatever for the kids, or they're off, you need a quick lunch or whatever. There is other things that you can do instead of I'm looking at big meals for supper. But do consider also making your own pizzas at home. You can buy the 9 inch and it's got toppings and they're always in competition and on sale. You can add any topping you want to that. Okay. So for example, if you get a pepperoni pizza, which is what I do, I add my own toppings because I shouldn't say they don't taste like anything, but I don't want their vegetables and other things on mine. And the other thing I do is with ground beef, I will chop it up, get it cut up with the onion, and then I cool it. I will bag it into small portions that I will use for pizza toppings. and it's perfect. Like we actually prefer that than you know going to the store and buying one for takeout. The difference of probably $5 versus 32, big difference, big savings. So if you can try that. These are ways that you can save money, and what you're saving for is it vacations. You need a deep freeze, right? Because you need to put your food in something. And all the bargains that you're going to be able to get, you're going to keep up on. So hopefully you have tried saving some coins and managing to save on the side, because that's what we're going to do. So at least try some of the ideas if you want to save. If you do need any help with anything, please write me a note and I would be glad to write you back. So next time we will talk about other ways to make things stretch and how to have fun when you're cooking. So like my video, hit the subscribe and I would appreciate it very much. So thank you for watching and enjoy your day.